Everest Truth Show back up in the building. Now, people, the very last episode of Unfiltered, we covered a young lady called Victoria Everest who was secretly recorded saying that she lied about being raped. Now, over the years, we've been very vocal about people who lie about assault and things of this nature, as it's no joke. And clearly, when someone lies about these things, it hurts the next person in line. So the next person who comes along may not be believed based on someone who comes out with fake accusations. So anyway, Victoria has now appeared in an interview on Trend Central. So we are going to react to this and see exactly what she has to say for herself. So let's get into it.
You mentioned that, like you hate men in that video. And obviously you describing everything that you've gone through psychologically, one could argue that, it's understandable why you would kind of have that viewpoint. But you've mentioned that your dad didn't contribute to it. It was your stepdad. And then you also entered into abusive relationships. What did those abusive relationships look like? What did you experience?
In relation to the video, the person that I was in a relationship with, it was over a period of 18 months. When I first entered a relationship with this guy, generally I would, be naive enough, because I'm someone who wears their heart on their sleeve naturally in every scenario, every situation.
Not gonna lie, this looks like a clean-up campaign.
One of the things,
it's more like a clean-up campaign. This whole thing, like, we need to get to why she lied that a man assaulted her. I understand that she's had a rough life. I understand that she's seen her mom get beaten, but why did she lie about being assaulted? That's what we want to find out.
That led me to even entering this relationship was just being vulnerable enough to take people for face value. The manipulation that went into pursuing the relationship from him, early on in the relationship really was, when I look back and reflect, I think, okay, I definitely was in a really broken state. When I look back at that video, because, I've watched it a couple times, and just to set the record straight, that video was filmed almost 10 years ago. The person who I was speaking about in that video wasn't arrested and wasn't prosecuted.
None of that matters, man. This is the problem. This is the issue with this. Now, I get it that it was 10 years ago. I get it that she maybe made a mistake. But she's approaching this all wrong. And Trend Central have approached this all wrong as well. This is about she lied on an innocent man. It doesn't matter about her upbringing. It doesn't matter about her trauma. What matters is, why did she lie on an innocent man? Because that's why we have the dysfunction going on in the community that we have going on today, because of girls like this who rally support and lie on men. All we need to know is why she lied on the man. We don't need to know nothing about nothing else, how old the video is, none of that, making no excuses. She needs to take accountability for what she did. And the facts are, this is why when stories break and things happen, we have all of this dysfunction that we see going on, because people have to remember that there are women like this who lie.
Extremely, vile things in that video. A lot of people have really focused on the hate and the anger. And
I'm so sorry. I'm just going to cut you, because you said the person in the video that you were referring to was not prosecuted, was not arrested, was not charged.
Absolutely not. He wasn't, he wasn't charged. He didn't go to jail. And actually the video was provided to the police, and because the video was provided to the police, he managed to get away with those charges. And
you really managed to get away. Now, at the end of the day, people, we can only go off the back of what we saw, and she's saying he managed to get away. But based on what we saw, you lied. So he didn't manage to get away. He got away because he deserved to get away, because you lied on him. This is what I don't understand.
You're being provided to the police. I was charged, caution, and I had to go on probation. So I have a criminal record, and that was a decision made by the police at the time. So I really had to pay the price.
Okay, so we're moving along a bit quickly here.
As she should.
So the video, the man that released the video, Gucci Walker, I believe, right? Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah. He released a statement saying that his friend, the reason why he made the video was because his friend was charged with a false rape case. Yeah. And at the hands of you planned it. You had the man in your house where you both had intercourse, and then the police caught him there. So he was going to jail. He couldn't bust case on this particular matter because he was found in your house. But you're saying that that didn't happen.
No, so he did get arrested, and because the video, was provided to the police as evidence, he was released. He never got charged, and he, I never saw Denzel again. That was, over 8 years ago. We've never spoken. We've never seen. He went on with his life. I went, we made a lot of mistakes during that relationship. That was probably one of the most traumatic. I've been through 2 very, very traumatic relationships in my life. One of those.
Again, man. People, I hope you're seeing this, I hope you're watching this. You see these people that are online with their toxicity, yeah? It's always about what they went through. This is why we can't listen to them. And even now, this video is 18 minutes in. I haven't seen her take accountability once. Not even once. She's still almost trying to make an excuse for what she did.
When I say traumatic, violent and abusive, one of those was with Denzel, the person that was in question in the video. And his ex-partner warned me. She was a teacher. She had a non-molestation order against him. And she said, look, this guy, she told me exactly what was going to happen in the relationship. And I didn't believe her. Denzel, convinced me also not to believe her. And, I really paid the price of that. One of the biggest...
what it is, people, I get that, I get it. But this is what girls do. Now, the fact of the matter is this, you got warned at the time when you got with this character, Denzel, I believe she called the character. Now, when you got with him, you said that his girlfriend told you that the relationship was going to go a certain way. At that moment in time, you didn't care. You didn't care at that moment. So now, none of that matters. All that matters now is why you lied on the man. It doesn't matter if he was a shit boyfriend. It doesn't matter about none of that. All that matters is why you lied on this man.
Things, that came out of the relationship is during the time that we were together, I fell pregnant. I ended up contracting an STI. He gave me gonorrhea at the time. At the time I was working at Microsoft, I had a very successful career with a 6-figure salary. And he told me that he was an ex-football player, semi-pro football player, only to later discover that actually he worked on the railways. He was living at his mum's house on the couch. And the car that he'd met me in, which was a brand new Range Rover, belonged to the girl that he was dating at Brown Eagle. It was someone else's vehicle. So
again, everything I'm hearing right now is all personal. It's all personal stuff. Now, I get it. She's saying that she's caught something off this guy. It sounds like she's had a difficult time with this guy, which I do understand that. But then that's what it's about. It's not about nothing else. However, she made things up and said that she was assaulted by this guy, etc., etc. I'm still not seeing no accountability. We don't need 43 minutes of this. We only need maybe 5 minutes of this girl coming on this video and saying, look, I lied. People like me should be punished for lying. I'm sorry. And I'd like to move forward. That's all that needs to be said.
That was only, months into the relationship, I was discovering these things. I found a secret phone in his car. There was a whole array of women that he was meeting up with, and sleeping with at the same time while he was living in my house. And any single time that I confronted him, the backlash was, a verbal, physical abuse. And during the time that we was in the relationship, I called the police 19 times because I was at fear of my life. My son was living with me at the time. I'm a single mom, and my son was around 7 at the time. And that was one of the worst things, that I've ever experienced, was to see my son, witness me getting beaten up by this man. And he wasn't just a man.
Again, man, it's actually sad how they're trying to angle this. And people, don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to take away from Victoria's experience. However, she is not addressing why we are all here and why, you know, she was even in the media in the first place, which is she lied on a man about being raped. That is something that is very serious. And even in the aftermath of being caught out, she's not taking no accountability in order for us to even analyze anything. She's standing on it, and that is sad. She hasn't learned from this. And I understand that this man could have been a scumbag or whatever the case may be, but that don't mean you don't take accountability, and that don't mean that you lie on the man. It doesn't make sense.
He was a street thug. He was a guy off the street, you know, from the ends, and you know, and because of the fact that each time I called the police for, you know, for abuse, whether it was abuse, you know, in front of or, you know, isolated, maybe he wasn't at home, because there was a child at home, social services were involved. And at the last point where he was arrested, my main concern was keeping him safe. You know, that was the ultimate thing for me. Social services were, you know, I was at complete risk of losing him because I was in this relationship with this abusive man.
At what point did you decide everything that you're going through in this relationship, the abuse that you were enduring, when did you decide that in order for me to get him back, because that's what you mentioned in the video, that you were going to make this false allegation? Like, when did that thought process land?
So every single time the police were called, the follow-up was made. There was a non-molestation order. There was a restraining order, so he couldn't, you know, come back to the house. But he would always turn back up at the house, crying, you know, begging me, apologizing. He's not going to do it again, and I need to forgive him. That I'm his baby girl, and you know, everything was going to be okay. And being naive and vulnerable, at the time, I would take him back, believe his lies, and not realizing at the time I was experiencing, you know, what we call today is severe narcissism. But
There's
there
that word
came
again.
a point where
Narcissist might be the most overused word of the last 10 years.
the social services were like, you know, we're gonna. You're now putting your child in risk by staying in this relationship. It was only in hindsight, when I look back, I take responsibility for being the codependent to enable that relationship to go on for as long as it did. I definitely take accountability, you know, for the things that I said in that video, the hurtful things that I said. I hate men.
Yeah, and you know what it is, folks? There's a lot of women like this running around. This woman may be, first of all, Victoria, she's just a product of the problem. There's a lot of women running around that hate men, maybe for the same reasons as Victoria or for different reasons. However, these are the women that are in the public eye. Also, they have men like this as well who push their personal experiences, and it keeps this cesspit of toxic content going on. And this is why at a platform like Express Truth, we don't believe all women because of girls like this. You see what I mean? So when girls come out and say, this man did this, this man did that, we have to remember women like this whose whole motive is to ruin a man. You see what I mean?
One of the things I referred to in that video specifically was the fact that I say to the person that was recording the video that I'm going to put a stop to this so that he doesn't go and do this to other women. You know, like, I felt at that point that the only person that could stop this man was me. And the only way that I could stop him was by sending him to jail. And the reason behind that was, like, I didn't want anyone else.
Victoria, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to interject here.
Yeah.
So, are you saying that you wanted to get him back because of the abuse? Because even though you're mentioning things that he's done, I'm still a bit hazy on what he actually did to you. Like, what was the...
Okay, good. That's good. You see the interviewer? That's good, because you never said nothing the whole interview. You got to challenge this girl.
The 13th reason as to why you felt like
Good camera
I'm going
angle
to
switch.
get him arrested. What was he actually doing to you?
He'd beaten me up in front of he'd beating me black and blue. It wasn't just, you know, my mouth was swollen. I had blood. My eyes. It was just essentially it was a repeat of what I had been experiencing growing up. At that point, he strangled me, so I lost consciousness. And that was the final straw for me. That was it, because I said to myself, like, there's no way I can keep going through this. At the time, my mum was still alive, and she was very much, you know, encouraging me to get the law involved and you know, really make sure that I can draw a line and be able to move on, you know, from this relationship. And
Sorry, looking back, why did you feel like this was the best course of action for you to take?
Let me pause it there. That's a good question, because basically what she's explaining is that she's been abused by this man. He's abused her in front of her child. So surely there's enough grounds there to get him sent to prison for that. She just said, her own words, that this man was beating her black and blue. So surely there's enough evidence there to send him to prison for that without making up the rape story. It don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like, if this man was doing all this stuff that he's saying he's doing, you shouldn't have no issue in getting the law involved. Why did you have to make up such a heinous lie that has knock-on effect? That has a knock-on effect. See what I mean? Because now it don't just hurt him; it hurts everyone involved with the situation, really, because you were lying.
Look back at why I would have taken that, you know, that why I would have been so drastic and so extreme in terms of my response. It wasn't even a response, it was a reaction. It was a reaction. A, because I was terrified of what he would do to me, that he would continue to do it to me, put me at harm, put my son in harm, put other women in harm. And I felt like I said, I could be the one to stop that and change that, not realizing, you know, that we don't have the ability to change anyone. We can only change ourselves. And unfortunately,
She still hasn't answered it.
I messed up. I made a really stupid decision in making that statement. And, you know, I had to pay the price. I really had to pay the price. Not only did somebody get away scotch-free from the offenses that they committed, but I ended up, you know, having a criminal record because of it. Ultimately, that wasn't the end, you know, like I had to do, you know, that was the beginning of, and I think I even mentioned it in that recording that, you know, that's what my therapist said. I've been in therapy for almost coming up to 8 years.
Honestly, folks, she's babbling, man. She's babbling. It looks like, you know what needs to happen? We didn't even need all these minutes for this video. All that needed to happen is she needed to get on the camera and say, 10 years ago, I was a completely different person. I made up a heinous lie and I was caught out and I learnt my lesson. I'd never do something like that again. And for any girls out there who are watching this, learn your lesson through me. That's all that needed to be said. I understand that she alleges that she was in a toxic relationship. However, that was no excuse to put this type of lie on this man's jacket. So all of this whole video, it's like it's a lack of accountability. And Trend Central, I'm guessing that there's a relationship with either the host or the platform, because she has not been confronted based on the lie that she told. And that is the reason why we have women online and men online both pushing their personal experiences that is further damaging the black family structure. This woman needed to be called out and she wasn't called out.
Now. And that was the beginning of my therapy. That was the beginning of realizing, you know, my part to play, how I enabled the situation. And, you know, ultimately, I take responsibility, because ultimately, you know, I didn't have any self-worth for myself. If I had enough self-worth for myself, I would never let a man like that in my space, in my home, or at my child. I had no value of that. And I think that's where it all begun for me.
I mean, the abuse that you've endured is horrible, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I'm so sorry that you went through that. But I think it's very important to kind of like think about the repercussions that a rape charge has. Did you think about that? Because,
well done,
for example, people that go to prison for rape are, you know, that sometimes they get killed because of the allegations. So obviously, you sending someone to prison, that's number one, taking years off of their life for something that they didn't do, and there's a possibility that they could literally die in prison. Did that thought process go through your mind at all?
At that time, I'm going to be honest with you, it didn't cross my mind at all. My main thing that was on my mind is keeping myself safe and keeping my son safe and making sure that, you know, I don't fall victim to this abuser again. And like I said, it's not right. I don't condone anything I said in that video. I think it's really important to, to make a very clear distinction in that the person in that video that was speaking is merely just a shell of the person I am today. And I've had to do a lot of work, and that's why my lifestyle is so important to me. When I made that statement, when I said those things on camera, I was a very angry, scorned Black woman who I wanted the guy dead. That's the reality.
Honesty. That's what we need to hear. This is the first bit of honesty I've seen. Now, people, this content right here, let this serve as a lesson, because there's going to be more allegations. Don't get it twisted. We'll be back on here with an allegation in a matter of weeks or months. What we have to understand is this, that when these allegations come out, a person is innocent until they are proven guilty. You heard what Victoria just said. She was a very angry, scorned, I'm not going to say Black because I'm pretty sure at the start of this, she said that she's Turkish or something like that. So I'm going to say she was a very angry, scorned Turkish woman, who wanted to ruin a Black man, and almost did if she wasn't recorded.
Of it, for what he had put me through, for the pain they put me through. And it wasn't just everything I had experienced in that relationship. It was almost like the wrath of what I'd experienced through life, and, how I'd seen men, including my stepdad, and, including men that, growing up abuse women. And I feel like at that point, my expression.
Do you notice though, that this is what is unfair as a man? That this woman, has been in a relationship with a man who abused her. She said that she called the police 19 times. She didn't leave. She chose to stay. She did that. But up in her anger, she's blaming all men. People, think about it. In her anger, she's blaming all men. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And this is why the statement like believe all women and all these things can't be followed.
In that video was really just an expression of the wrath and the letdown and the pain. I was a scorned woman. And by making that statement, he didn't go to jail and he didn't get prosecuted. It backfired. And like I said, I really had to sit with the discomfort and the shame around that. And one of the biggest things, I haven't gone into any of the blog posts, and I refuse not to entertain the gossip or the low vibrational, low frequency conversations. But
what is this girl talking about? Let me put the full screen on for this. What is this girl talking about? You were caught out in a lie. The ecosystem simply reported on that lie. You haven't showed no accountability. Listen, any man who's dating this girl, you're in for a world of problems. She's got no account. She lied, and she's took no accountability and is still trying to play the victim. This is crazy to me.
Will say, quite a few people have messaged and said, what about your son? And I think it would have been really irresponsible for me, as a 30-year-old woman at that time, to carry that same mindset through to who I am and the woman I am today, and that would have been irresponsible of me as a mum, not making any changes, not looking in the mirror, not looking at my thoughts, not doing the work to uncondition myself from those thoughts. The reality is, when I fast forward to my life today, I have a very, very healthy relationship with my partner. He's an incredible man. I run retreats across the world,
none of that
wellness, and
none of that has anything to do with anything based on the story. I personally don't want to react to this too much longer because she hasn't taken no accountability. What I will say is this: congratulations and well done on all of your continued success. You look healthy. You're traveling around the world with your retreats. Much continued success with that. Where you've gone wrong is this: you made a mistake. Everyone can make mistakes, but you haven't taken accountability for that mistake. You could have ruined that man's life, not to mention the relationships that he has moving forward. You could have put a whole load of trauma in that man's existence. You could have made that man not trust women ever again. And you've came on after the fact. And instead of just making this straight to the point apologizing. You've spoke about all your own traumas, and you haven't even so much as apologized to this man. So that's for me, that's all I can react to, because there is no accountability here. But the reason why I wanted to react to this is just to show that statements like believe all women can't be followed. So that's it, people. Hit the like button, hit the share button. We out of here. People, I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to watch the stream in full, consider becoming a Patreon or joining our YouTube members. And don't forget to hit the like button, folks, and we'll see you in the next one.